Joumana Kayrouz.
The war broke out in my home country, Lebanon. I was 11 years old, and I saw a lot of bloodshed and inequality and poverty. You can't grow up in an environment like that and not be affected by it and not want to make a difference. I graduated from Yale University with a master's in ethics. I speak 4 languages. It has always been innate in me fighting for the underdog and trying to do whatever it is I can to make a difference in the world.
Let Joumana Kayrouz protect your rights. Call the law offices of Joumana Kayrouz at 1-866-YOUR-RIGHTS, extension 100, or visit yourrights.com.
مكاتب المحامية جومانا كيروز تتمنى لكم السلامة في ظل انتشار وباء كوفيد-19. المحامية جومانا كيروز مثلت على مدى 22 عاما ضحايا حوادث السيارات مع طاقم من المحامين ذوي الخبرة، وحصلت لموكليها على تعويضات بمئات الملايين من الدولارات قبل أن تختار المحامي الذي سيدافع عن قضيتك. دقق في تاريخه المهني. ومع مكاتب جومانا كيروز ستنذهل بآراء مئات الموكلين وخبراتهم الإيجابية في جوجل ريفيوز. مكاتب المحامية جومانا كيروز يتحدثون لغتك العربية والكلدانية. 248-557-3645 والاستشارة مجانية. برنامج يور رايتس مع المحامية جومانا كيروز المختصة في قضايا حوادث السيارات، مع نخبة من المحامين في اختصاصات عدة منها الطلاق والهجرة والإفلاس، يأتيكم الآن على الهواء مباشرة. أسعد الله أوقاتكم بالخير مستمعينا في كل مكان. أهلا بكم في حلقة جديدة من برنامج يور رايتس مع المحامية جومانا كيروز، وعلى الهواء مباشرة نستقبل اتصالاتكم في موضوع الحلقة اليوم وعلى الأرقام 313-769-6666 519-256-1023 وعن طريق الواتساب، والرقم هو 313-327-7074. مكاتب المحامية جومانا كيروز تستقبل قضايا الإصابات الشخصية من ضمنها حوادث السيارات، قضايا إصابات العمل والأخطاء الطبية، قضايا الهجرة والتجنس، قضايا الإفلاس والضمان الاجتماعي وقوانين العائلة. دائما الاستشارات مجانية على رقم 248-557-3645. تحياتنا لكم مرة أخرى. جومانا، مساء الخير.
مساء النور رامي، يعطيك ألف عافية. كيفك اليوم؟
الحمد لله، نسأل عنك، إن شاء الله بخير.
كتر خير الله، ومساء الخير لكل المستمعين، ومساء الخير لضيفنا لليوم كل نهار خميس، محامي عنده 29 سنة خبرة ب SSI SSD Workman's Compensation، يعني الضمان الاجتماعي والإصابات ضمن العمل، المحامي باتريك هوران. Good afternoon, Patrick.
Good afternoon and Happy New Year, Joumana.
Happy New Year to you as well, and to everybody listening again. Before we start, Patrick, we had a question yesterday that I thought I would take 15 minutes on, but actually I can wrap that up in 5 minutes because we gave our word. We will address it briefly, we will, and then we will move on to what we're talking about today. We had a question, Pat, yesterday from a gentleman who appears to be the victim of identity theft. Somebody got a hold of his social security number and is alleging to be him. It's not entirely clear to me what the hacker has done with his social security number, whether it is opening bank accounts, opening credit cards, whatever the case may be. But this gentleman was very concerned. The information that he shared with us yesterday indicated that he does not have what we call identity theft protection. And he wanted to know what it is that he can do. So I'll say it in English very quickly. We'll talk about it in Arabic. And I think what we're going to do, because there is a lot of hacking going on lately, it's becoming easier and easier is the bottom line. And that means protection becomes more and more important because it's becoming easier. This gentleman does not appear to have bought identity theft protection, and therefore what he has suffered is a crime. He can file a police report for that. Very sadly, I will say that although you have to file a police report, and even if you are subscribed to an identity theft, they make you file a police report, but this gentleman does not have identity theft protection, and filing the police report is not going to go very far. I mean, the police, depending on where he lives too, the police is going to investigate, but I don't think that they are going to be extremely successful in finding or uncovering the identity of the person who is hacking him. And I'm talking here very, very generally. In other words, The filing of a police report is a requirement because this is a crime, but quite often it's helpful only when you have, quite often, but not always, it's helpful only when you have identity theft protection because that is needed, and then the identity theft protection that you bought will afford you a lawyer paid for, legal protection, and so forth and so on. And for that, you need a police report. Every once in a while, I have heard about police officers investigating identity theft and getting somewhere. But more often than not, it's really a step that you have to go through, but it's not a step that gives you the answers you are looking for. I don't mean to put you on the spot, Pat, but do you know anything about identity theft protection?
Well, you did put me on the spot, Joumana, but I actually do have some experience with this.
Tell us.
I've had several clients in Social Security claims. One of the things that the judge looks at the Social Security hearing is whether the person has had any earnings. And my client sits down and swears, no, they've not been able to work. They're disabled. And the judge says, well, according to the IRS, you claimed earnings of $12,000 last year. Where'd that come from? And it turned out somebody stole their identity and filed a fraudulent tax form to get a earned income tax credit on their identity. My advice to them at that point is to file a special document that the IRS has called an identity theft affidavit, and that takes those earnings off of their credit, and they're not penalized for it.
Okay, so with the IRS, it will put the IRS on notice that they did not make the earnings that they have allegedly made, and they should not be paying taxes on that.
That's right.
Okay. Do a lot of the clients who are workers' comp or SSI subscribe to identity theft protection?
Not that I'm aware of. As I said, the only time this has come up for me is at the time of the hearing, and they're blindsided by the fact that somebody is claiming earnings on their tax record.
Correct. And the only solution to all that, the only thing that anybody can do, but it goes a very, very long way, is to purchase what's called identity theft protection. And I will translate all this into Arabic in a minute. It's very, very cheap. You can buy the basic package. You can buy a more sophisticated package. I mean, the most I've ever seen an identity theft protection run is $39.99 a month. There are some that are as little as $9.99 a month. You can even buy that protection from Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. There are many other companies that advertise on social media and on television. For identity theft, Keylock, or what is it called? LifeLock is one. That's what I have personally. I have LifeLock. So you need to buy it because not only if, God forbid, you become the victim of identity theft protection, they will hire a lawyer free of charge for you and defend you and clean your record. But also, and very importantly, they are proactive. They will alert you if something feels like it's an identity theft. So you can subscribe. You know how when you buy or you activate a credit card or your bank or any application, pretty much you ask for notifications. Notify me when my balance is below $1,000. Notify me if it's a credit card when I am within 2 days of my due date to pay my credit card. The same with these services. That's the beauty of these services. If somebody opens credit, they're going to send you a text if you request that, asking you, are you the person who opened a credit with this bank or that credit card? If somebody does an inquiry on you, they are going to notify you. If your credit score goes up or goes down, they're going to notify you. Any suspicious activity, they're going to notify you. So they will be very proactive. They will alert you as soon as they see behavior that's not consistent with your past history. And they have so many options and you can even freeze your record. This way nobody can open, nobody can close, nobody can do an inquiry on you if you suspect suspicious activity. So that's the beauty of these identity theft protection services, is before, God forbid, because all the studies I've seen show that a person whose identity was stolen spends an average of, I want to say, 600 hours trying to clean their record. So it's a lot of aggravation. It's a lot of time wasted. It's your credit score going down. It's calling all these creditors. It's being in touch with the police. It's a lot of work to fix it. When you buy an identity protection and you set up all these notifications that the identity protection program you buy gives you, they will alert you. They will alert you before you become. That's the whole idea. That's the hope, and that's the goal. So that what happened to this gentleman does not happen again. So رامي امبارح اجينا اتصال من قبل شخص الظاهر انه هويته انسرقت. ما رح نحكي كثير عن الموضوع، بس رح نقول لازم يقدم بوليس ريبورت لانه هذه هي جناية. وإنما بالإضافة أغلبية الأوقات للأسف البوليس أوفيسرز حسب وين موجودين ما عندهم القدرة ينجحوا بالمهمة دائما. في بعض الأوقات بيقدروا وأغلبية الأوقات ما بيقدروا، بس المطلوب من الشخص إنه يقدم بوليس ريبورت لأنه هي جناية. هيدي أولا. ثانيا، إذا هذا الإنسان شاري identity theft protection، من المستندات اللي بتطلبها منه identity theft protection company اللي عم بيتعامل معها هي بوليس ريبورت. الحل الوحيد لكل المستمعين هو شراء identity theft protection. هو بروجرام كتير رخيص. الإنسان بيقدر يروح على لايف لوك، بيقدر يروح على إكسبيريان، بيقدر يروح على ترانس يونيون، بيقدر يروح على اكيفاكس، اللي هن 3 كومبانيز اللي بيحضروا للحكومة الفيدرالية الكريدت سكور والكريدت ريبورت تبع كل إنسان. كمان هن بيبيعوا identity theft protection. اطلعوا على البروجرامز اللي بيقدمون، في منهم كتير رخاص وفي منهم غاليين. أغلى شغلة أنا شايفتها آخر مرة اطلعت على the various programs هي عبارة فقط عن $39.99 بالشهر، بس بيقدموا أشياء يمكن الإنسان ما بيحتاجها. يعني حتى ال $9.99 a month بتعطي كتير protection. So الحلو فيهم هؤلاء البروجرامز رامي إنه you set them up. بيقولوا لك do you want to be notified if somebody opened a credit card in your name? Do you want to be notified if somebody closed a credit card in your name? Do you want to be notified if somebody made an inquiry in your name? Do you want to be notified if, God forbid, a judgment entered against you, a warrant was issued against you? Do you want to be notified if somebody made an inquiry, a financial inquiry? So هيدول كلهم لحتى تعرف إذا أنت صاحب الشأن. Did you open a credit card or did somebody open a credit card? Did you open a bank account or did somebody else open a bank account? So هدول are preventative. وهي هيدي الغاية is ما بدنا نصير ضحية السرقة لحتى نحمي حالنا. بدنا نكون عم نتعاقد مع بروجرام ينبهنا دغري أول ما يشوف في suspicious activity. وهدول النوتيفيكيشن فيك تطلب يكونوا باي إيميل، فيك تطلب يكونوا باي فون كول، فيك تطلب يكونوا باي text messages. So بنصح كل إنسان إنه يشتريها هيدي الحماية. We cannot afford anymore. نحن عايشين بعصر تكنولوجي. It's very easy to hack bank accounts. It's very easy to hack credit cards. It's very, 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 very easy. رامي أنا بعرف أصدقاء إلي ومتأسفة يعني خبر هالخبرية. إن شاء الله الله يرشده لهالشاب وما يعود يعمل هالحركات. عمره 14 سنة، وشو بدي خبرك عن أمه وبيه؟ أبوه دكتور، أمه فرمشانية، عائلة آدمية كتير. الصبي ذكي كتير، والصبي عمره 14 سنة وفخور بنفسه إنه he can hack للأسف ما عم بيفهم بعد إنه اللي عم يعمله هو سرقة، اللي عم يعمله هو جناية، اللي عم يعمله ممكن يخرب له بيته. صار فايت على كذا أكاونت، شاري أغراض بيوصلوا لعنده على البيت، سحب $40,000 من أكاونت بنيويورك. ذكي كتير هيدا الصبي. بتعرف الجيل الجديد they're very savvy, they're very very smart. وهو واحد منهم وما عم يستوعب إنه اللي عم يعمله هو غلط، هو غير أخلاقي. هو فخور بقدراته، فخور بقدرته. he's been hacking بس بعد لهلا يعني ما الاثوريتيز ما عرفوا فيه. ما فيني اقول لك اهله عايشين على اعصابهم، لانه بهالايام بتربي الاولاد ما فيك تكون قاسي معهم مثل ما اهلنا كانوا قاسيين معنا. عندهم حقوق وبيطلبوا البوليس عليك. I really don't know. I don't understand. هيدا الجنريشن الجديده انا ما بفهمها. شاب صغير، صبي صغير عمره 14 سنه، يعني اهله بدهم يضلوا أصدقائه من جهة، ومن جهة تانية بدهم يوعوا. my point is النقطة اللي عم وصلها هون إنه صبي عمره 14 سنة قاعد بغرفته he's hacking accounts. لهالدرجة هي سهلة. شو الحماية الوحيدة الموجودة؟ only an identity theft protection for $9.99 a month, for $19.99 a month, for $39.99 a month. Is that a lot of money, رامي؟
بصراحة لا، يعني قياسا خاصة إذا شخص يعني مثل ما ذكرتي أنه كان عنده أموال أو كان عنده مثلا أيضا كثير كريدت كاردز أو يعني نشاط مالي جيد، يعني يمكن لازم يخاف كثير بموضوع القرصنة. بالفعل يكون هو تارجت
بكل العالم، حتى اللي ما عنده كريدت سكور بهم أمره.
صحيح.
اوكي، هذا كافي وحده. نو I disagree هون very respectfully with you انه اللي عنده قدرات واللي ما عنده قدرات. لانه كمان the one thing اللي هيدا البروجرام بيقدم حسب شو بتشتري، بيقدموا لك free legal services وحتى بيعطوك تعويض. they give you money back. يعني وقت تشتري ال 1999 انا عم بحكي هلا I have not looked at it in a minute لانه I have a little bit of the more expensive one, but كل ما بتشتري نتفة أغلى. وشو عم نحكي شيء كتير بسيط. بيطلع لك فري ليجل إذا كنت الضحية، بيأمنوا لك محامي ببلاش وبيعطوك تعويض لحد $1,000,000 لحد 75,000، يعني بيردوا لك مصاري كمان. أنا بشجع كل إنسان ينظر لهذا الأمر and to subscribe. It's very easy to buy. وفي كتير شركات عم بيقدموا محترمة يعني وموثوق فيها، عم بتقدم هاي البروتكشن. واللي ما بده بيقدر يروح على The Source، Experian، TransUnion وأكيفاكس. ثلاثتهم بيقدموا هيدول السيرفيسز. إذا ممكن ناخد وقفة سريعة ومن بعدها بدنا نتكلم مع المحامي باتريك هوران عن COVID and Workmen's Compensation.
وأرقام الهواتف في الاستوديو للمشاركة في برنامج يور رايتس مع المحامية جومانا كيروز 313-769-6666 519-256-1023، وعلى الواتساب الرقم هو 313-327-7074. هل لديك مشاكل في قضايا الضمان الاجتماعي أو قانون إصابات العمل؟ المحامي باتريك هوران من مكاتب المحامية جومانا كيروز يضع خبرة 28 عاما في قضايا الضمان الاجتماعي وإصابات ضمن العمل في خدمتكم. الاستشارات مجانية. اتصل الآن بمكاتب المحامية جومانا كيروز 248-557-3645. يتحدثون لغتكم العربية والكلدانية. 248-557-3645. مكاتب المحامية جومانا كيروز تتمنى لكم السلامة في ظل انتشار وباء كوفيد-19. المحامية جومانا كيروز مثلت على مدى 22 عاما ضحايا حوادث السيارات مع طاقم من المحامين ذوي الخبرة، وحصلت لموكليها على تعويضات بمئات الملايين من الدولارات. قبل أن تختار المحامي الذي سيدافع عن قضيتك، دقق في تاريخه المهني. ومع مكاتب جومانا كيروز ستنذهل بآراء مئات الموكلين وخبراتهم الإيجابية في جوجل ريفيوز. مكاتب المحامية جومانا كيروز يتحدثون لغتك العربية والكلدانية. 248-557-3645 والاستشارة مجانية. يور رايت مع المحامية جومانا كيروز. عودة إلى برنامج يور رايت مع المحامية جومانا كيروز. أرقام الهواتف في الاستوديو 313-769-6666 519-256-1023 وعلى الواتساب 313-327-7074. جومانا نرجع لك.
شكرا رامي، وبنرجع مع المحامي باتريك هوران. Attorney Patrick Horan, thank you for listening to me and indulging me talking about identity theft. Very quickly, you wanted to share with our listeners something about COVID and workman's compensation.
Yes, Joumana, we've talked a lot about workers' compensation cases involving an injury on the job. We always say, did you get hurt on the job? But the fact is, you can also receive workers' compensation benefits for an occupational disease. That is a disease that you contract as in the course and scope of your employment. So, as an example, if you're working around chemicals which cause you to get cancer, you can get workers' compensation benefits for the disability caused by the cancer you were exposed to on the job. Now, when a pandemic came out like COVID this spring, the governor put out a special rule to protect first.
Pat, if you can
Yes.
get closer to the mic a little bit, because
Okay.
thank you.
Can you hear me now?
A little bit better, I believe.
Okay. So I was saying that COVID can be treated like any other disease that you're exposed to on the job for most. If you can demonstrate that you were exposed to COVID on the job and it causes you to be disabled, you're entitled to wage loss benefits while you're disabled and also medical care related to that disease treatment. As you know, there can be lifelong consequences to an exposure to COVID or an infection with COVID. Now, that's
Sure. So
for regular
sometimes
employees.
So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you can be exposed to COVID and get COVID and be okay after 2 weeks. So you have wage loss for 2 weeks. And sometimes, God forbid, you can be hospitalized, out for weeks, for months, even death. Right.
That's right.
So it can range for as little as and as long as.
That's right. And now the difficulty in that situation, of course, for the typical employee is to show that they actually contracted COVID on the job. You can imagine the insurance company will be very quick to try and point out other people that they might have been around outside of the workplace that could have caused the exposure, right?
Yes, of course.
Now,
Yeah.
Now, that's for the typical employee. Now, to protect first response employees, the governor put out a special rule at the end of March into 2020 to protect those employees. And in that situation, if you are what's called a first response employee, and that we think of as the frontline workers we hear about on the news who are exposed to COVID in the course of their employment, those people, if they contract COVID, it is considered workers' comp. In other words, it's a presumption that they did get it on the job. Now, we know that first response employees could be ambulance drivers or EMT workers or policemen or firemen. But it's also true that home health and healthcare workers or people who work in an aged care facility or an independent living facility, they're also covered under this first response employee protection if they get COVID from their workplace. So that's very important. They have special protection because they're out there taking care of us during the course of this pandemic.
Have you had cases, Patrick, where people thought or believed that they were exposed on the job, contracted the virus on the job, and sought and received workman's compensation?
So what made me think of this topic today, Joumana, is my mother is in in an old folks home, I guess is what you used to call it, but an independent living facility. And I was contracting with a care worker to help her out with her activities of daily living. And in the course of speaking with the agency that provided the care worker, their representative told me that she had contracted COVID this spring. And I asked her, do you think you got it on the job? And she said, absolutely. And she was suffering from continued problems likely related to COVID that are going to cause her, medical bills going in the future.
And she's back. So is she treating and on the job? And is the workman's compensation?
She doesn't have any continuing wage loss, but her medical bills are going to start to add up. She specifically had some cardiac issues that are likely related to COVID. And I told her that, all of us these days have health insurance that have very high copays. And if you are running it through workers' comp, there will be no copays.
and so you told her to talk to you if she submits bills in the future and they don't get paid. You will fight for her. You will
Absolutely.
argue that this is workman's comp, and the workman's compensation insurance company should cover those medical bills.
Absolutely. And there's, like I said, because she's in that first response employee category, it's a presumption that it's workers' comp. Now, if she was not, if she just had a job like you and me and we're not first response employees, then we'd have to show that the exposure actually happened on the job. If I could show that I got COVID from a client that I met with, for instance, okay, my workers' comp claim would be something that I'd have to prove in that manner.
Okay, I understand. Anything else you'd like to add on the subject?
No, other than I think it's going to be an ongoing issue because, as we said, there's evidence that this disease can cause problems months and years after the person's back in the workforce.
Yes. Thank you for sharing this with us. In preparing for the show today, we were also talking about how difficult it is for people as well as for their lawyers. And I'm not talking about their Social Security lawyers, but about their lawyers in general. Let's say I have a client who applied for Social Security in the past and now is in a car accident. Well, it's very important for me as their car accident lawyer to know what they told. I don't care. I don't care. It doesn't matter so much to me if they have been accepted by the Social Security Administration or whether they have been denied by the Social Security Administration. I'm interested in what they told the Social Security Administration, regardless of the outcome, because what they told the Social Security Administration may affect their case for pain and suffering today. In other words, a client comes to me today who was in an accident a month ago and tells me that as a result of the accident, they can no longer walk, they can no longer do household chores, they can no longer do a certain activity. When I ask them if they have applied for SSI or SSD before, if they tell me yes, regardless of whether they are getting SSI payments or not, SSD payments or not, I want to know when they applied, what did they tell the government? Because if they told the government the same things that they are telling me now, then I cannot force the insurance company for the at-fault driver to give them money for the pain and suffering, because we cannot claim that the accident is the reason why they cannot do the household chores when a year ago, 3 months ago, 6 months ago, 2 years ago, they told the Social Security Administration that they cannot do their household chores. And we know very sadly that people who apply for SSI sometimes sadly and incorrectly exaggerate what their injuries are and what their disabilities are. And they do that because they want to convince the Social Security Administration that they are disabled so that they can get Medicaid and so that they can get a check, which can go as much as $793 a month. That's not a small penny. Agreed?
Well, yes. I mean, you're going to have somebody who makes a claim for Social Security disability or SSI benefits, and they're going to fill out a form that if under the age 50, they basically have to say they can't do any work at all, that they're totally disabled.
Right. And the application will ask them about all kinds of things. I wished I brought an application that I used to use from about 3 years ago. I cannot tell you this lady who came to me, and I have mentioned this, but it's this example on the radio before, but it's worth mentioning because it's such a perfect example. This lady was crossing the street to go to her church on a Sunday, and she gets hit by a car. And she ends up in the hospital, I don't know, 3 days, 1 week, something like that. And I do apologize, Pat. So she comes to me so that I can look into getting her a settlement for pain and suffering from the at-fault driver. When I asked her if she had applied to SSI, she goes, "Oh, yeah, but I was not accepted." I say, "That's fine. But when did you apply within the past 2 years?" "Well, I need to see what you told the Social Security Administration." Well, the application that she brought, thankfully she had it. She had made a copy of it and she had it at home. And I say thankfully because trying to get Social Security records from Social Security Administration is almost impossible. But long story short, she brought me the application. Pat, it was shocking. She told the Social Security Administration that she cannot do anything. In fact, she wrote in her broken English, "I can do nothing." In her broken English, "I can do nothing." And the Social Security Administration application, it was so detailed. Can you do this? Can you do that? Can you use your right hand? Can you use your left hand? Can you sit? Can you vacuum? Can you take the dust off? Do you shop? If you shop, do you shop outside the house? Do you shop online? They even wanted to know if she's capable of shopping online. Do you go out? Do you go out alone? Do you go out accompanied? Where do you go out? And I don't need to tell you, Pat, she was quite frankly exaggerating so much on her application, hoping to erroneously, falsely, hoping to convince the Social Security Administration that she deserves to go on SSI. She was denied because that is what she says, and that is her medical records that were obtained from her doctor that did not support what she was saying. But long story short, when I read the application, I said, there is no way I can. I know she's injured. I know she's been in the hospital for 3 days or 1 week, but there is no way I can get anything for her pain and suffering because before this accident, she told the government she can do, to use her words, nothing. In fact, what was she doing crossing the street when she told the Social Security Administration she can do nothing?
Right.
So,
I've had judges cross-examine clients based on those kind of statements. Well, what do you do all day? Oh, I do nothing. Well,
oh,
okay.
she said she
You know,
watched, oh, yes, they tell her, what do you do all day? She said she watches television all day.
right.
So that's every day, 7 days a week, 30 days a month, 365 days a year. But during the accident, she was crossing the street walking. So I said to her, I said, I don't know if I can do anything for you. Because I mean, look, you told the world that you cannot do anything. You should have been walking. Well, we lucked out. We lucked out. It's called clever lawyering, coupled with coupled with acting quickly, coupled with a lot of luck. We were able to reach the at fault driver's adjuster, and we pressured him kind of as much as we could to settle this case without needing to file a lawsuit because the policy was $100,000 from the person who hit her, but we showed how her injuries are more than 100,000. We buried the adjuster with the medical record just from the hospitalization, and we said, look, if you settle with us, we'll give you, I don't know, $2,000 or $3,000 off, and we call it a day. And the reason we wanted to do that is before the adjuster for the at fault driver who hit her realizes that our client applied for SSI and orders her SSI records and sees that prior to this accident, she had told the world that she cannot do anything. So we kind of rushed it, and the adjuster was not paying attention. And we did not do anything wrong because it's not that we were asked and we lied. No, we were not asked. We did not volunteer. He did not do his job properly. He did not, look into her social security record history. He did not ask us for it, so we did not provide it. And guess what? We were able actually to settle this case for $100,000. It was luck. It was luck. But truth is, if this adjuster had refused and we had to file a lawsuit on her behalf for pain and suffering against the car who hit her, the lawyer for the insurance company in the deposition would have asked her, Miss So and so, have you ever applied for SSI? Under oath, she would have to answer truthfully and say yes. Then he would have made her sign a release so that he or she can obtain those records from the Social Security Administration and would have seen a terrible picture. And the value of her case would have gone south, down the drain. I can't tell you how much, to no end.
Right. Right. And that's why whenever I interview a prospective Social Security client, one of the first questions I'll ask them is, why do you think that you can't do any work at all? And does your doctor have findings that back that up?
Correct, because
and they
that
need
is
to be
what you
specific.
write. Exactly. That is what you write on the application. But is your doctor going to, because the Social Security Administration, correct me if I'm wrong, will send a form to your doctor to fill out.
That's right. And they'll certainly request all the records.
And will request all the records. And what the doctor will provide better be consistent with what you are alleging.
Right. And it's never a good idea to lie. Let's just get that out there, right?
No, well, we absolutely, absolutely. We never want to lie. We never want to exaggerate. We say it as it is and let the chips fall where they may. Either you qualify or you do not qualify. But exaggerating without the medical records supporting you is a pointless, is a fraudulent, and is an exercise in futility as well. But the reason we're talking about all this is to say, you advise your clients, and I know a lot of people now call on the phone and apply for SSI, correct?
That's right. I tell people to go ahead and do their application on the phone, and once they get that application in, then I file my paperwork to represent them.
Right, but you advise clients, to when they fill out the form and they take it in person, or if they ever do it again in the future post-COVID, to always keep a copy of the Social Security Administration application, correct?
Right. You want a copy of that for your files, even if you don't have a problem like you're describing in the future.
Yeah, this is an important record. You should have a copy of it.
That's right.
The client that I mentioned to you, that was about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, maybe now. And, she had filled out the old-fashioned way, went to the Social Security Administration, filled it out, and kept a copy. And we were lucky. The problem is that most people, sadly, when they apply for SSI, they're not thinking, God forbid, they're going to have an accident. Nobody knows. It's an accident. So nobody expects it. It's not intended. So they don't keep copies. We want people to keep copies of their Social Security application. And now, as their car accident lawyer, I have to request the Social Security record. And again, it doesn't matter whether they have been denied, they have still applied. So I want to know what they told the world, what they told the government before they sit in their deposition in their car accident, what they said and whether it is still true or whether they had improved between the time that they said what they said to the Social Security Administration and the day of the accident. I mean, of course, if someone applied for Social Security 3 years ago and said all these things, but then got better, 4 years later got into an accident, well, an argument can be made that they were getting better, and hopefully the medical records will show that this person was getting better. But if you just filed a year ago or 6 months ago or 3 months ago, it becomes even harder to say you were all better by the time of the accident. I think I'm rambling a little bit. The first point I want to say is keep your Social Security application. However, nowadays, most people are applying, they're calling and they are applying online. And then the Social Security Administration makes a record of the most important points, it seems, that they say in their Social Security file. And and you find it in the electronic file, right?
That's right.
Now, you as a Social Security attorney, SSI, SSD attorney, you are very lucky. It's very easy for you to go inside a client's record because being a Social Security attorney, you are already you subscribe to the Social Security Administration's website. They gave you a username and an ID, and every client who hires you to represent them for SSI or SSD, you make them sign what's called an appointment of representation, also known as Form 1696. The client signs it, your name is on it, you send it to the Social Security Administration, and now you have the right to go into their electronic file. And you walked me in how you do it. Once a client signs this form and you send it to the SSA, you go, let's say it's John Doe, and you want to know what's in John Doe's electronic file, all of the file, the totality of the file from A to Z, ever, past, present, everything. You go to the SSA.org, you sign in with your username and password, and now you enter John Doe's Social Security number, SSN. Once you enter it, the Social Security Administration is going to send you a code to your phone corresponding to John Doe's Social Security. You take that code, you put it online, and now you are permitted to enter into your client's electronic record. And you can see everything. You can see the medical records, you can see the wage records, you can see any old decisions a judge may have made, applications, disability records, and all of that, correct?
That's right. And that's how we prepare the case for the hearing, is we look and see what records are already in the file, and then we ask the client if they've been to another doctor or been to a hospital that's not included, so that we can request those records and make sure it's ready at the time of the hearing.
Sure. And we have a caller, but before we take Mr. Ahmed's call, I just want to add, you are very lucky and spoiled, because as a social security attorney, your client will sign a Form 1696, and boom, you can access the whole electronic file. I asked you if I can do this as the car accident attorney, and you said I cannot. I asked if I too can have my client fill out a Form 1696 and access the record, and you said I cannot, because Form 1696 is only to be filled out between a Social Security attorney and his client. I'm not somebody's Social Security attorney. I'm somebody's car accident attorney. So I have to do it the old-fashioned way. I have to make the client sign a release and send it in the mail to the Social Security, and pray some more that the Social Security will get the request, will process the request, and will send it to me in time to protect my client. But the same thing happens on the other side. When a lawyer for an insurance company sits someone in a deposition, and they get told that the injured person has filed for SSI, they will make the client sign forms. They too are going to have to deal with the Social Security Administration and wait, and maybe they will get those records and maybe they won't. So you can get instant access, but we, non-Social Security lawyers, have to do it the old-fashioned way, and with the system being so broken, so behind, maybe never get those Social Security records, correct?
Right. In fact, I had a Social Security hearing this morning, and I was logging in to look at my client's electronic file as the hearing was starting, and the system was down for a couple minutes, and I panicked because I didn't want to have to start the hearing without being able to have the file open in front of me electronically.
Sure. I'm sure it's a file you had reviewed before, but you needed it open while you're going through your hearings.
Exactly.
Sure. Attorney Patrick Horan, again, 29 years of experience, SSI, SSD, workman's compensation. Let's take a call. Estez Ahmed, بنعتذر نطرناك شوي على الخط.
No problem. How you doing, Joumana?
Very good, sir. How are you?
I'm just fine, thank you. I have a quick question regarding the stimulus checks. You know how it comes to the head of the household? So if he has his wife and, say, 2 kids, and the money should go to him or should go to the kids and the wife as well? The distribution.
This is a question outside of the topic for today, and I'm afraid if we answer one stimulus check, I will just say this. They look at the last way you filed your taxes, the last time you filed your taxes.
Yeah, I realize that. But say the check comes to the head of the household. But is he supposed to give the wife and kids their share, or is he supposed to spend it on the expenses, say, that he pays for the house and the food and whatever expenses he has?
If you want to be technical, part of the check is for him. An extra $600 is for every child. There is the spouse as well. If you want to be technical, it has to be divided this way. But which family is going to sit and divide it up? But yes, the reason you receive a larger check is because it's not just you. There is you,
Right.
there is your spouse, and there is every dependent on you, another $600 each. Okay?
But if he's paying all the expenses, they didn't pay any expenses, and he's not making enough money. So should he take part of it, or to help them pay the expenses, or just give them their share? The 600.
Okay, so let me. I'm just gonna answer it like that, and out of respect for Attorney Patrick Horan's time, we're gonna go back to the subject. I will answer it this way. There is you and your wife, and there is every minor child. Every child of yours is $600. Subtract that. Whatever is left, half is to you, half is to your wife. You are free to do whatever you want with your half. And thank you very much, Ustaz Ahmed. I do apologize. نرجع لموضوع اليوم. عم نحكي عن workman's compensation وعم نحكي عن SSI و SSD. So, Attorney Patrick Horan, I apologize. We deviated for a minute.
Well, that's all right.
We know people are starting to, get their stimulus checks. Some people have. But if you open that Pandora's box, we'll only be talking about that. So I was saying that you are very lucky. You can get instant access to, because you are an SSI SSD attorney, and because you are signed in, and because every client of yours signs, and you file Form 1696, which is only a form between not a car accident lawyer and his client, but a Social Security lawyer and his client, that allows you instant access. And even then, once you type in your client's Social Security, they're going to send the code to your phone. And once you enter the code, now you have access to the electronic file.
That's right. And I can't make sure you understand that only means that I can look at my client's files. I can't look at anybody else's file.
Right, because, and I asked you that question, because even if you have somebody else's Social Security number, they're going to send the code to the lawyer who is on Form 1696. If you're, excuse me, pretending to be that lawyer, the code is going to appear on the lawyer's phone number. It's not going to go to your phone, to your text messages. And if you don't have that, you cannot access the electronic file.
That's right. And that kind of circles back to your first topic today about identity theft. The government's very serious about protecting people's privacy in their Social Security file.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. By the way, you said that the file is broken into blocks, block A, block B, C, D, E, and F. One of those blocks in the file is the wage records of every person. Is that ever since they started working and paying FICA, or last 2 years or 3 years or something?
No, it goes more than 2 years back.
Is it a person's entire wage history?
I'm thinking off the top of my head, and it certainly goes back more than 15 years for clients of mine. So I bet it does have everybody's total wage history.
By the way, I was in working on a car accident where the employer of my client, who owns a trucking company, was giving my client a hard time in giving him his W-2s. But my client insisted he had W-2s. That means that his employer was paying FICA taxes on him, and he was paying. So I said, great, if your employer is paying FICA taxes on you, maybe we don't need your employer to prove that you are a W-2. Let's go into your MyWAM account and let's see, because, once an employer pays the portion, the 7.853 of the FICA taxes on an employee, they get reported to the Social Security Administration. And I was shocked. He went into his MyWAM account, and the Social Security Administration is 2 years behind. So this was last month, 2 years behind on logging in the FICA taxes and the wage information on this client. So this client's wage information showed for 2018. They have not entered 2019 yet, and they have not entered 2020. My goal was to show that he is truly a W-2, and his employer was not being helpful, and my client did not have a copy of his W-2. So if the employer doesn't give it to us, I figured we'll go into his MyWAM account where they're supposed to keep a history of all the FICA taxes, all the wage records on someone. And I was shocked and saddened and surprised to discover that my clients' wages have not been updated for the past 2 years. I spoke to our bookkeeper who confirmed to me that they are 2 years behind. Did you know that?
I did not. And I will say that when they compile wage records for a Social Security disability hearing, there's very recent records of wages up through the last quarter in the file.
Not for my client, not for that client, and not as it was confirmed to me by our bookkeeper. When I went to her in shock and surprise, she confirmed that she already knew that they are 2 years behind. I'm not sure why your client was updated, that client wasn't, and it was confirmed to me that they are behind.
Yeah, in this morning's hearing, for instance, the judge asked my client to explain some earnings in there, and it was they were government
identity
payments
theft
that he received.
Oh, okay, understood.
No.
But I think that brings the point. You don't need to keep copies of everything, but better. The saying goes, we have 3 minutes remaining. Better have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So important documents, but even what you believe to be unimportant, keep them. Keep a copy of them. Your W-2 records. Why wouldn't you have them as an employee? Why wouldn't you have them? You should keep them, because if you don't have them, you're going to have to depend on an employer who may be, less than forthcoming. Your application, your fee agreements with your lawyer. I mean, better have them and not need them than need them and not have them. Everything is important. Some things are more important than others. Had that client kept his W-2, and he would take his checks and cash them in a check cashing place. So there was no bank record to trace them to, too. I mean, I was not telling the whole story, but I was saying that the Social Security Administration, as to that client and apparently others, per the bookkeeper, are behind in posting people's earnings.
I believe it.
However, for the clients you represent, you look to the electronic file to see what's there, but you also make sure that if there is anything missing, you supplement it with what the clients or the employer presents, right?
For sure. And and the fee agreement that I use, that I sign up with a client, the last sentence of the fee agreement that client signs says that they have read the contract and have received a copy of it. So I want to make sure that the client has a copy of the fee agreement so they can always look at it in the future if they have any questions, and they should keep that with their valuable documents.
Attorney Patrick Horan, thank you so very much. Very valuable information. Rami, thank you very much. Thank you to all of our listeners. Tomorrow, Attorney Michael Bankstein and Bankruptcy Law. Thank you.